So, I've just spent the last hour or so making a small little mission. Basically, the plan is that Blue 4 will start off at the airport. They will have to split north and south to complete two separate objectives. One will be to clear a syndicate camp in this region here, and the other be to clear a syndicate roadblock. Finally, they will move on to the town of Regina itself and secure a armoured warehouse along with the syndicate camp. Now at the moment I've not integrated this with the framework, so it still has a few framework features missing. That is the tasks to fire and complete these objectives, and also the garrison script to populate some surrounding houses. Currently you'll notice there's quite a lot of infantry spread across the map, so this should be quite a tough mission. We'll have to see how it goes. For now, I'm just going to take you through how I now integrate my finished mission done in the vanilla editor with the actual framework itself. To start with, I'm going to find the framework and paste it over this mission. So this is our framework that I've exported or extracted into my missions folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the files apart from the mission SQM. The mission SQM contains everything related to the mission, that is all your units, all your markers, basically everything around the mission itself, so I don't want to go replacing that with the framework version. So I'm just going to copy these files, find my Tanoa Patrol folder, which simply has my mission SQM because I created it in vanilla, and I'm going to paste those files over it. Now straight away, because it contains init SQF and description ext, these files are automatically read by Eden and Arma itself, so they will automatically be picked up. I don't need to change any of these because the framework basically only means I need to alter the mission folder and the scripts folder. So we're back in the mission once more. At the moment, the only playable unit I have down is a civilian that I use for testing. We're going to need to get some proper groups on there, and also the garrison script copied from the template. So if I save this mission, I then open up my template. I'm now in the default template. I'm going to select my basic groups, Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta and Echo, and also the MMG team, which I'm going to be using to drive the forward vehicles. I'm going to copy the respawn marker because I don't want to have to type that. I'm also going to grab some basic objectives, which will be to clear an area. And finally, I'm going to copy the garrison scripts. The garrison script 1 and 2 I will be using. Garrison script 1 fills a house at mission start. Garrison 2 fills a house when a certain type of units get into the trigger area. So we're going to control click on both of those to select them. I've controlled C to copy all of that. I'm now going to dive back into my mission and paste those objects back in. So we can see, because it's taken from Altus, there's a few bits and pieces spread around. We'll just drag these in. We'll get onto the mission later. For now we're going to sort our units out. I can get rid of the civilian, I won't be needing him now. I'm then going to make the commander a player, so we have a unit to start with. I'm going to get rid of these high command modules, these aren't necessary, and they're gone. Our two MMG teams will be driving the forward vehicles, as I said, so we'll have MMG 2 pasted on there. I'm just going to edit the group. So we now have a group called NATO MMG 2 and NATO MMG 1. We're going to need, because we've added a group, we're going to need to remember to add this marker into our groups list. We'll get onto that later. For now, I'm just going to configure these names so they appear in the lobby screen correctly. And because they will be driving an armed prowler, I'm just going to highlight the facts in the leader, just so the people know what they're getting into. You can just enjoy this music royalty-free 1 hour mix. Okay, so that is our commander. I've put this vehicle down for him. Alpha and Bravo are going to get their own vehicles. If I switch into the camera view, we can just drag these units around. So that'll be Bravo. So Alpha and Bravo each have their own vehicles. And Charlie and Delta also have their own trucks. Now it's 50-50 whether you want to automatically mount the groups in the trucks or leave them out. The catch of mounting units in vehicles automatically means that when they jip in, if there are any jips, which basically means join in progress, then they will actually not start in the vehicle if it has been moved, causing them to spawn in the grounds and possibly get ran over. I'm going to take that risk and just launch them in anyway. So just drag these groups over. He makes this nice and easy. By default, we haven't given the vehicles any kit, so I'm just going to borrow the code to populate a vehicle off one of these units and then assign it VTR, which I know is a trucks gear. That will allow us to populate these trucks with some basic kit the soldiers will need. And I'm going to do the same thing with the car, and instead of TR for truck, it's car. And we will populate those prowlers. Now I'm just going to quickly drag these units in, not really paying mind to where they are. The people can organise when they're in game the correct seating arrangement if necessary. For now we're just going to concentrate on just getting this quickly started. So those are our 4 groups. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 46 players total, so that means we've got 4 slots left for a 50 player mission. We're not really going to have many large squads, so I think we'll just have a recon squad, which will be Echo. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 men and then convert this squad into a recon squad. And from experience, I know the group name is DT for recon, and we just need to configure these people. So we're not going to have a Misson specialist, we're just going to have a standard rifleman team. We don't have to rename the variables, that's just a standard identifier for Arma. No one's going to see that, so we'll be safe leaving that as it is. We're now going to give these guys a prowler, make them be cautious, and we'll keep with the style of the mission. So there we go. Now we'll move these people a bit further out just to get a slight head start. Okay, so that's basically the players in the game now. These are all set to playable units. Commanders there. There are now 50 players. We're all happy with that. Just give that a save. Now let's go on to the garrison scripts. The garrison scripts are pretty easy. I'm going to be using the trigger based fill for the syndicate that are going to be further away from the town, so as we get later onto the mission this will start to be used. We call para because we're going to be putting the paramilitary forces in there. I want a very low number because we do, as I said, already have plenty of units on the map. So that is between 0 and 1 people, so it's more likely to be 0 than it is to be 1. So that basically means mandatory values, possible additional values. So I could have at least 1 unit plus 1 extra, or the chance of just having 1 unit in there, which is very effective because it just basically puts either 1 or 2 people in the house. Very useful. I'm just going to expand out these trigger areas, so when the people, blue 4 that is, get within 150 meters of this trigger, it will output and fill the house. So let's put it around these areas here. I don't quite know which ones are popular, which houses can be populated or not. Doesn't look like that one can. Oh yep, that one can. Okay, I know this one can. That's fine. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to populate this trigger around the surrounding area that the blue 4 will have to clear. I think that one can be entered and that one can't. Yeah, that one can. Okay, so there'll be some nice houses for them to clear when they move into the area. And likewise through here, as they're passing along the roads, which I'll be expecting them to do, I'm going to just throw a few down. We'll try and keep the numbers fairly low because there is going to be a lot of contact rounds here. I'm also going to use a proper logic-based script which will populate the infantry at the start. We'll just get this configured to also say para. And we're going to have a guaranteed number of 2 men plus 2 extra. So that's going to be quite a decent amount there. And I'm going to populate that over the bunker. And then finally also the house. Brick bungalow. So that should nicely fill those rooms. So they will have contact guaranteed there. Just to fill out those sandbags, I'm going to throw a couple more paramilitary down. Just a basic couple of infantry. Just so that when the infantry do walk up to this area, there will be contact there for them. And likewise at the sandbags in front of this compound. Now those 2 there might be a little bit too much, so I'm just going to change the percentage of their presence down to 60. So there's a chance that they both appear, but 9 times out of 10, or 60 times out of 100, they will be more likely to be there than not. And doing the same thing over here. Just going to throw down a few individual units in houses which aren't going to be garrisoned. Just to spice things up a little. Oh, put that guy in the corner. Did I copy and paste him at 60? I didn't. Okay. Let's knock that down to 60 because we don't want too many single men around. They can get a bit of a pain to track down. We'll just put the chance of men to appear on. Okay, I just need to copy some logic scripts over there because at the moment the houses won't be filled and we want to make it look like this town's a little bit well defended. So let's change our values to 0 and 2 again. That one can be garrisoned. I think that one can, yes. Okay, and that one. And then we'll put some further out. I don't think that shack can be entered. No. Let's find another building. This one's perfect. There we go. So, having done that, we're then probably ready to set the objectives finally. I'm just going to move my respawn marker into there, which should create a nice flag, and give that a quick test. Okay, we're now in game. We can see there's 168 resistance forces, which is an awful high amount. We can see our FPS is suffering slightly, so we're going to have to do something about that and delete some of those groups. For now, if we look under the issues list, just check anything there. MMG slots overfilled, that's not a concern, and we've got a lot of groups we need to clear out of groups HPP. We'll get into that later. For now, I'm going to go to admin menu, assign myself Zeus, give myself all mission objects, so I can pan around the map. We can see our blue 4 forces there are ready to go out. They're all perfectly set up there. If I scroll across to the first objective, I can see I've placed down some civilian units which have been deleted by the remains collector. So I'm just going to need to add some extra script to make sure they stay on the map. we can see the other units are all holding there ready. Our random patrols are in place, moving around the map. And if we check our fortified structures, let's have a look in here. Oh dear, that's not right. Those people are AF. That means the script has not picked up the correct identifier for para. That will be a problem which we're going to need to address. We can see that it has garrison the buildings, but unfortunately it's the wrong type. So let's jump out and have a look at that right now. To fix the issue of the incorrect units filling the houses, if we double click on the logic, we can see how it's called. It's basically looking at scripts, LV folder, and then fill house SQF. So we're going to need to take a look at that and see where it's going. So we're now in our mission folder. If we go to scripts, LV, fill house, and take a look at this, scrolling down, we're looking for the syndicate faction, which is here, and of course it doesn't have para. What I could do is I could fix and correct all my units, but because I know I'm going to make that same mistake again in the future, I'm just going to add in another case of para, which will then fix the issue. While I'm here, I might as well also fix the other folders and just give it a bit of a tidy up. I'm not using DAC on the mission, so I'm deleting that folder. Same with LV, no enhanced AI. I'm not using the bunker script either. The gears I will be using, I'm going to pick, I think I'm going to pick West Jungle perhaps. Well, so going to be Western Forces, so it's going to be West Standard Jungle loadout. So I'm going to copy the SQF, paste it into my mission loadout folder. We now have West Jungle. I'm going to get rid of these three, which are the default gears for AAF, CSAT and NATO. I'm going to rename this and copy the text because I'm going to need to type this into the assigned loadouts SQF. Side is West. They're now going to use the Jungle loadout. Get rid of the rest because they're not needed. Save that. Close. Back into loadout. We're now done on that folder. Moving on to the groups HPP. And I might as well look at all these three in one. So to start with, groups HPP, we're not using Op4, we're not using Infor, so let's get rid of those. If we remember our warnings list, it said a number of these groups weren't used. I know they're Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. We're not using Echo because if we remember we renamed them. We did add a new MMG team, so we'll throw them down on the list as MMG2. And DT was Recon. And we're not using the rest of them, so they can also go. I called it DT in-game, so I'm going to call it DT on here. We're completely free to change any of these parameters. I'm going to make Recon purple in this instance because we have a number of other similarly coloured units. MMGs are orange. Okay, we're going to rename that to black just to give some colour coordination with the units. So your support teams are going to be orange, Recon's purple, and Alpha, Bravo and Charlie have their own unique colours. I'll save that because we're done with that one now. Mission info. The same stuff, so 2600k, Zeus as the author, load name, I'm going to call it Tanoa Patrol. I'm probably going to rename it to something a bit more creative, but for now, just as an example, we're going to enter that. Onto the scripts, get rid of these view distances, they don't really need set. Earplugs, leave them in. Casualties cap check, well, might as well leave it on there, put it to 80%. We're not going to be using the Alt4 independent casualty cap checks, no teleportation feature, we're not using UPS or DAC, and we don't need any post-process effects, so we're just going to get rid of those just to save a tiny bit of space. Third person's going to be in vehicles only. Jip's going to be enabled. Group markers will be on the map. Perfect. Okay, we're ready to go back once more, I believe. Let's go back in game and set up our objectives. So, we're going to have 4 objectives on the map. Secure a roadblock, secure a camp, and then secure 2 other fortified positions. We're going to be using the basic objective template, which has been copied from the template. I'm just going to give that a blue 4 marker just to signify it's for blue 4 to clear. Area marker 2, and the trigger in there should have a fire for area marker 2 to be cleared, which is. And area marker 1 covers the square grid. Okay, we're going to change that grid to a sphere. And I'm going to change the size. That's size 15. That seems awfully small. I'm going to get rid of the text there just so it's a circle, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the create task to actually give the information to the player. We now have 4 separate tasks which will each be completed independently. We now need one final trigger to finish the whole mission when all 4 tasks have been completed. To do that, I'll need to dig out one of my triggers if I can find it. Here we go. I'm just going to grab this name and copy paste this 4 times. So to make this end with all 4 triggers, we're simply going to use trigger activated. And it'll be 4, 3, and 1. I've already typed in this code here because I often forget it, and I just copy paste it from a notepad. I've got it saved away. So this is the code you use, which basically means 1 will be the ending and true or false is either success or failure. So that means you've completed the mission successfully. I'm going to switch that to 3 just to give it a bit of a buffer and give it a title. And that will end the mission for us. So, all we in theory need to do now is to write a briefing and also create these civilians, but I'm going to just find a variable for that. Get rid of that, just tidy him up. Let's give it one last test. We did deliberately leave the task ID the same, so we should have an extra issue highlighted to us. And we now have 131 units, which is probably about the limit. That's fine. If we press M, I've forgotten to create the AO marker once more. We do have an issue. As you can see, our task has not populated. Our briefing issue says there is a duplicate ID and that issue needs resolved. So if we change this to 2, we should be alright. Oh dear, the trigger activation type has Infor but no playable units. Okay, that's just that's not a real warning because I'm dealing with small areas. I know that that is just all Infor, not present. What that's basically telling me to do is perhaps use this list and not use this as the trigger type. Maybe a bit confusing, I might have to change that. Anyway, let's assign Zeus, play around again, test these triggers, and mission ends are working alright. Go into Zeus mode. So, all we're going to do to fire off these triggers is to delete these vehicles. That will cause the trigger of Infor no longer being present. Ah, of course. Right. I would go for the trigger that's not working first. So that's probably going to have messed up the trigger, so that's going to have completed that top one instead. Anyway, that's by the by. I'm going to continue on here anyway and continue deleting these just to clear up the area. We're just going to check our bunker has been filled with the correct units this time, and it's looking good. Clear that bunker area and clear this one. There we go. All bunkers should now be clear. All objectives should now be complete. And then 3 seconds later, the mission should end. Okay, before I forget, I'm going to quickly throw down an AO. This is going to be quite a large AO, easily done though, with rectangle marker. We call the variable AO marker. The brush is border, the colour is red, and then we simply set our area. It's a little bit thin, let's be a bit more generous, give him 1K border, and there we go. That will basically round off to the nearest grid and then display it. Finally, before we forget, let's correct our task ID to 2, and that should fix our problems. This is now ready to play. We just need our briefing done. One final check just to make sure the gear's all in line. Oh, I've missed a bracket on my name. That's not very good. Okay, so we can see in our vehicle we got plenty of ammo. We are now the CTRG NATO forces. Got our fancy equipment, gear selections in there, tasks are displaying fine, briefing issues list. Couple of minor issues. As I said before, we're going to ignore these triggers, not a problem. Ready to go. Let's get the typing done, and then this mission's ready to play.